What's up, Space Pirates? This is your Admiral, the certifiably suave Dr. Disaster. And with Monster Hunter Wilds, Capcom has just had one of the more devastating experiences that they can encounter, the one where you go from being on top of the world to finding out that things can change pretty damn quickly.
I've reached the top! Look!
When Monster Hunter Wilds came out back in February, the game absolutely crushed all the sales numbers. They hit darn near 1,400,000 players at its peak on Steam, cracking in to the top 10 highest peaks on the platform of all time. Within 3 days of release, Capcom announced that they had sold 8 million copies of Monster Hunter Wilds, and after a month, they announced that they sold 10 million copies. From a sales perspective, everything was going their way.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
But one thing that kinda haunted this game right from the beginning was performance issues. Apparently, Wilds has run like shit on PC, and for a long time Capcom just kinda ignored the problem until now. As you can see, at the time of this recording, there are only about 55,000 people still playing the game, but worse than that, if you look at the Steam rating for the game, they have dropped down to a mixed rating, with about a 51% positive score. So now here we are, about 4 months after the release of Monster Hunter Wilds, and it seems that finally, gamers have gotten Capcom's attention. It looks like they have finally put out a patch in order to correct the performance issues and try to bring players back into the fold. It's ridiculous that they waited so long to fix their issues, and quite frankly, this shows a general lack of respect toward their paying customers, and it doesn't look like the players are going to be changing the game's rating on the platform anytime soon. The problem is, of course, that the hype has died down and gamers have largely moved on.
You're late, you f***ing dickheads!
Alright me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet, and I've begun uploading some content over onto Rumble as well, so make sure that you follow Dr. Disaster on that site too. Also, give me a follow on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster1. I keep a list on there of games lousy with wokeness pinned to my account at all times for your reference. Anyhow, let's talk about this Monster Hunter Wild scenario. As I showed you before, this game is now down to about 55,000 players, which, for the average game, that's pretty solid, but considering where this game started, it isn't very strong. In fact, if you look here, it isn't doing that much better than its cousin, Monster Hunter World, which only opened to a fraction of the player count that Monster Hunter Wilds opened to. That game is at a bit over 20,000 players concurrently at the time of this recording, but for perspective, that is a game that is around 6 years old. Wilds has only been out for 4 months. It sold really well, of course, but issues like this are the sort of things that dampen goodwill and damage sales for the future with the company. And frankly, as far as Capcom is concerned, they get no sympathy from me. When it comes to the cultural issues that we often talk about in video game spaces these days, this is a company that often straddles the line in their mainline games like new Monster Hunter titles and Resident Evil titles. In games like that, they generally stray away from being overtly woke. It kind of feels like they want to, but I don't think they have the balls to do it, quite frankly. I'm sure that elements from the West try to influence this Japanese company and convince them that woke is the way to go, and they tone things down when it comes to the attractive female characters in Street Fighter and things like that, but the bulk of their progressive leanings only make themselves visible in remasters and things like that, like the censorship that we saw in the Dead Rising remaster or the Onimusha 2 remaster. Capcom, as I say, has straddled the line, and I don't feel bad for them that people have turned on Monster Hunter Wilds, and clearly the poor reviews and low player count influenced them into doing this here. This article comes from Eurogamer. The headline says, Monster Hunter Wilds patch finally fixes the game's inexcusable performance woes on PC. Capcom has released an update for Monster Hunter Wilds, which has fixed a shader compilation problem on PC, causing high CPU loads and horrendous performance issues. The Title II update, which is out now, alters the game so shader compilation occurs upon the game's initial launch rather than during gameplay. It'll take some time, but players will no longer need to manually delete shader cache files in order to improve performance. That's good. These performance issues led to Monster Hunter Wilds receiving an overwhelmingly negative rating on Steam. The game, which suffered from performance issues from day one on PC, had an increased rate of crashes and visual bugs as of an update a month ago. So apparently, and I didn't know this, but apparently from the sound of things, the performance issues that people complained about at launch were exacerbated by an update from last month, which was the impetus for all of the negative reviews. In other words, gamers were being tolerant of the game's sluggishness at release, but this newer update made it even worse and just completely intolerable. For anyone out there who makes the claim that the gaming community is just a bunch of irrational, knee-jerk response types of people, I'd like to point out how tolerant the community was over the course of the first few months of Monster Hunter Wilds' release. But we do have our boiling point, and Capcom obviously found it. Now, maybe it will turn out that they just won't care as a company because they already have people's money. They already made the better part of $1 billion on this game, pushing their previous fiscal year numbers to record heights. However, they really don't want to gain the same sort of reputation that a company like Ubisoft has earned over the past few years as being a company that releases slop. When Capcom makes a game, they play with big numbers after all. I'm talking massive, multiple $100 million development budgets which require many millions of copies sold in order to recoup their costs and earn their return on investment. If roughly half of their players on Steam are pissed off enough at Monster Hunter Wilds in order to leave negative reviews of the game, that does not bode well. Over the next few weeks, now that the patch to fix everything has come out, if we don't see a rise in these reviews, that won't be a good sign. Now, does it mean that I think their next big game, Resident Evil 9, will struggle when it releases in January? Absolutely not. That game will sell like mad, but what I do think is that they can't afford to have similar performance issues with that game. As Grums, the former team lead of the OG World of Warcraft, noted on X, this should have been an easy fix from the beginning, and the game should not have shipped this way. So yeah, they better make sure Resident Evil 9 is smooth, because gamers are watching and we're pretty good at communicating with one another, and if we see negative trends like this, where Capcom is more interested in animating every blade of grass and every whisker on a character's face, rather than making sure their games are playable and fun, well, that won't work out for them in the long run, even once mighty companies like Square Enix have discovered that they can struggle to the point that they look mortal. So, Capcom would be wise to take this very seriously. But, did you play Monster Hunter Wilds on PC? And if so, did you experience performance issues? What rating did you leave the game on Steam? Drop your thoughts into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.